In fact, Janet, who had put in a request in December of 2015 at a Christmas party to please would some people step up and start a club, especially for TEDx. Cersei and I thought it would be fun to do, but we didn't take it seriously until I had the wonderful opportunity to be a TEDx speaker. And not only did I have the opportunity to be a TEDx speaker, I was a TEDx speaker at an organization that did it primo right. Not all TEDx's are the same. It depends on the organizers. And this gentleman that organized the one in Camarillo hired a consultant, husband and wife, who are TEDisans, meaning they've been on the TED stage more than once, were with TED right when it started, and knew what it takes to have a stellar TEDx event. And I am so grateful that that was my opportunity. For those of you, is everybody in here in Toastmasters already? Okay. For those of you who are not, have you ever been in a Toastmasters club? Okay. Well, hi, Kathy. This is a specialty club, meaning that you need to belong to a home club, a regular club, and have achieved your competent communication manual, the 10 speeches that you complete when you join, and you get the 2 manuals, one for leadership and one for speaking. Because this is definitely a higher level platform of speaking. And even with that Toastmaster training that many of us have had, is TEDx and TED is different. And I'm going to be demonstrating in a little bit some of what those differences are. So without further ado, we will have answer questions for those of you who are interested in Toastmasters in general. We'll have some information for you at the end of the meeting. I now would like to invite up our Educational Vice President for Stagemasters, distinguished Toastmaster, Cersei Denyer, and you don't need to shake her hand because she has a cold.
Welcome, everyone. Some of you I know, most of you I know, but there are a few faces out there that are new to me. So I'm going to tell you just a little bit about myself. I joined Toastmasters approximately 4 years ago. In that 4 years, I learned how to carry on a conversation with an audience, like yourselves, in a way that's meaningful and that you understand. Toastmasters did that for me. When I went with Linnea to the TEDx workshops, I discovered some brand new things. It was only then that I decided that I was capable and ready to coach a club to the TEDx experience. I have a DTM, a Distinguished Toastmaster certificate, meaning I have finished everything Toastmasters has for me. And I'm starting over and doing it all over again because I like what Toastmasters has given me. I didn't have any trouble speaking on stage to a group of people. I was comfortable. I thought I knew what I was doing. And when I joined Toastmasters, I learned 10 primary skills that helped me to be a better speaker. When I joined Linnea at TEDx, I learned what it takes to take a speaker from Toastmasters to the stage. You will notice in this club, we're going to do things a lot differently than regular clubs. We're going to teach you how to speak within the confines of a very small space. We're going to teach you to disregard some of your Toastmasters habits because here, out there in the stage, you don't use those. You will still use a lot of your Toastmaster skills because that's where you're going to find it's easier to develop and project a speech to an audience. One of the reasons that I know this is I witnessed Linnea do that as a Toastmaster. Of all the people and there were 12 of them to start out, of all of them that had to get up in the middle of the room and talk for 2 minutes, that sounds familiar, about their topic, she was more prepared and more comfortable than most of the other people. That was number one. And so your Toastmasters experience is going to help you a great deal with the beginning. The other things that we're going to teach you, you're going to go, uh-oh, I've never done that before. And we're going to practice one of those today. One of the things that TEDx, TED, and some other organizations do is they confine the speaker to a small place on the stage. We have set this rug on the floor for you. It's a little bigger than the stage, so it goes to the back. But it is the confined space in which you do work. So what I'm going to do, and I want you to pay careful attention, I'm going to introduce Linnea in a way that she would be introduced on the TEDx stage. And for you Toastmasters, you're going to go, what? Pay attention, because this is pretty common for most TEDx experiences. So I am the MC, and she is the speaker. And I'm going to ask questions afterwards and see how many things you noticed are different than your Toastmaster experience. Ladies and gentlemen, our next speaker is Linnea Millette with the title of her speech, The Red Dot.
Having been in Toastmasters almost 30 years, I can tell you that the TEDx experience is quite different. One of the things, if you've noticed, those of you who are Toastmasters, I started talking as soon as I stepped into this circle. In Toastmaster clubs, we're taught to stand, take in the audience, and then start to speak. That is not the TEDx way. The reason we were taught is because of momentum. As you're walking, there's an energy, and as you step into the circle, the energy is enhanced, and the momentum of your speech has more punch because you are already in motion. You'd be surprised how many of us would start speaking before we ever got in the circle or forget to start speaking as we got into the circle. This is bigger than the circle I had to work with. Mine was only 5 feet around, about 1.5 feet smaller all the way around in this. Now, this is not something I was familiar with in Toastmasters, where we're taught to use the whole stage. The reason why TED uses the red dot is because of filming. It is much easier for the film crew to capture you when you are in a relatively small space. It's difficult to tape and to watch this when a person's pacing the stage. One of the things I learned then is, and you'll learn this too, or you'll learn so much, as I did. How do you, if you cannot express yourself by using the stage, express yourself in the confines of this little red dot? Well, one of them is show rather than tell. Show rather than tell what you're speaking about. Now, as a Toastmaster, I was able to pull this off better than most of the others. And I don't remember if Sarah did. It didn't really fit her talk to do that. It's not that she couldn't do it. It just wasn't within the intent of her talk. But mine was very theatrical. 2 examples. Initially, I was telling the story when I was 45. I was sitting in a therapist chair, and the therapist told me she thought the root of all my problems was my hearing loss. So I was telling that, and the coach said it would be better, and the end result looked like this. The therapist paused and said, you know, Linnea, I think the root of all your problems is your hearing loss. That's ridiculous. I hear just fine. Do you see the difference in terms of talking about it and acting it out? And it didn't take a lot of movement here, did it? As a matter of fact, when I actually did the talk, I didn't even move to the side. I was in one place, and I did this for the therapist and this for me. And throughout the talk, whenever I was being stubborn me or unhappy me, this is what I used, so that you knew what I was talking about with me having to say anything. The other was the skydiving experience. When I talked it initially, it was that I jumped out of an airplane. I wasn't sure the parachute was working right. It seemed like I was going down too fast. But I didn't ask, or I did not open my spare parachute because I didn't want to look like an idiot in case that's not what the box was telling me to do. I couldn't understand the box. She said, you need to have us experience it with you. So that's how that looked. Then there was the skydiving experience. There I was. This is long before tandem jumping, where you jump with another person. This was just me, myself, and I, and my parachute, floating down to the ground. And all of a sudden, it seemed like I'm going too fast. Where is everybody? How come, am I passing everybody? What is this box saying to me? I can't understand it. Maybe it's telling me to open my spare chute. Should I open my... Oh, I look like an idiot if I'm wrong. Obviously, I lived to tell this story. But do you realize I was willing to die than not be embarrassed by the fact that I have a hearing loss? Do you see the big difference in that? This is the type of thing you will learn in the TEDx experience. So I'm going to leave you with those examples and those thoughts, and I'm going to return control now to the coach, Susie Daniel.
Thank you, Thank you. In this club, we're a Toastmasters club. So we are going to use the components of Toastmasters to teach you these things, some of these things that Linnea's talked about. We're going to use table topics to teach you how to start speaking when you put your first foot on the red dot. You're not going to talk until you get there, but you're not also going to wait till you get here either. So instead of you waiting or starting over here, I'm going to give you a question, or basically a topic to talk about. You're going to come up here, you're going to walk here, and as soon as your foot hits the red dot, you're going to start talking. Now, if that sounds really easy, wait till you try it. It's really, really hard, because you have to think about what you're going to say. So I need a volunteer, and if I don't get a volunteer, I've got somebody in mind. Paul, wonderful. Come stand to my right. I'm going to make this easy. These topics aren't going to be hard, or they're going to be familiar to you, because I do know some of you. Come up on stage and stand by the piano bench, please. Okay. Our next speaker, see, I'm going to announce him just like he would be coming up here, okay? But in table topics, he doesn't know what he's going to talk about. So this is impromptu, 2 minutes. He's going to tell me about the subject I'm going to introduce him to, starting to talk as soon as he hits the red dot. Paul, don't start moving until I'm off the stage, okay? So when I get off the stage, you start moving, and then you step foot on the dot and start talking, okay? Our next speaker is Paul Abramson. His topic, animation.
Hello, my name is Paul, and I am a cartoonaholic.
Comes off the same way he came on. If you happened to apply to a TEDx that's done and coached by Kimberly and her husband, or that's done more in the style of TED, you may or may not get coaching. This particular TEDx was such a blessing because their sponsor, the person that put up the money, paid for the coaching.
So we started
What
with a
we
4-hour
decided
workshop.
to do from that is to share, to give you what we found out in the safety of a club. Everything we found out and more. Our insights, the things that we found out that are different, the things that we added to what we found out, those things we'll be sharing with all of you. One of the things I didn't say is the reason that I'm the best person to be in this role in this club is I have absolutely no desire to be a TEDx speaker. I have a huge desire to see speakers get on stage. So I'm the person that's going to be doing a lot of the exercises, planning the meetings, deciding how we're going to do things with Linnea's help because she remembers things about it on a personal level. But I will be doing most of the guiding you through this, okay? We have an insight that we didn't have before we started this, and now we've got it. That's why this is valuable. If we had started this club 6 months ago, it wouldn't have worked. And now it's going to work. Now you're going to get the benefit that you guys really want. So do I have a second volunteer? Ooh. Ooh. Marcia, I saw your hand first. Come on up. Go on over there. Our next speaker, Marcia Bruce Bush. Her speech, what makes a chocolate cake?
What makes a chocolate cake is probably something that I have a huge passion.
Isn't this fun? Our next speaker, Janet Walters. Her speech title, Why I Volunteer.
I volunteer because it is necessary.
Okay.
One small comment about timing. Linnea did not have a timer for her speech. There was no clock sitting in front of her. There could have been. They talked about it. But they said that the speakers would be paying attention to the clock instead of the audience. It's very important what they talked to us about, and distractions was one of them. So for you as a speaker, you need to learn how much time it takes to deliver your speech. We're timing these because this is the Toastmaster table topics, and it's not about the timing, it's about getting on the red dot and starting. It's an exercise in using this circle. And there's a couple things I'll talk about at the very end to give you a little bit of feedback about that. So we'll go again. And then we're going to go on to something else. Our next speaker, Shauna Swanberg. Her speech, My Household Appliances.
Have you ever wondered how many?
Sissy, can I say something about the thank you, why that's happening?
Absolutely.
When I spoke on stage at a marketing event, I had the wonderful privilege of addressing a large audience on a Saturday night of a conference, marketing conference, Craig Deswald. You were there, Marcia. Being a Toastmaster, I knew not to say thank you at the end of my talk. So my talk goes, so read my lips. If I can do it, you can do it too. Nobody knew I was done. Finally, I said thank you, and they go, oh, no. So in TED, they say, you say thank you, because the audience has to know when you're done so that they can applaud you. So that's why in the TED environment, you do say thank you. And you say it strongly. Yes.
Thank you. Do we need to say thank you every time we walk on stage?
No. Okay. We have a video we'd like you to play. Mike's going to play, rather. It has suggestions about how this TEDx speaking works, what works best. It's called the best TED Talk or something like that. Mike, you cue that up?
In Paris, we are good kissers and fine gourmet. We look very confident and sometimes a bit snobbish. But the truth is, we don't have a damn clue about how to speak in public. So we learned a few tricks to do TED Talks. What's a good TED Talk? A public speech, maximum 18 minutes long, without notes, standing up alone on stage. But what's a great TED Talk? A great story, shared with authenticity and passion, using emotions and humor. So how can you transform an average talk into a great TED Talk? How do you move the audience with a clear message that can easily be understood by all? Well, you have to prepare your talk. A good talk cannot be improvised. It has to be prepared and rehearsed. A good talk has a strong message. Ask yourself what you want to transmit. What is the main idea you want people to remember? All your talk has to be constructed in order to deliver your message. You have to identify the audience profile. Are they young or old? Are they specialists or students? Then you have to adapt your talk to the audience. Now you can build your script. Keep in mind that you have to introduce your talk and not yourself. Always start your speech with a hook that will immediately catch the audience. It can be a fun fact, a personal story, numbers, a quote, or a video. Consider your talk as a road with checkpoints. You have to pass through all the checkpoints not to get lost. The checkpoints must be things that you absolutely want to say. Each one will lead you to the next step of your speech. Checkpoints can be a keyword, a sentence, a joke, or a short personal story. The numbers of checkpoints depends on the length of your talk. 3 for a 5-minute talk, or 7 for a 12-minute one. The last checkpoint is obviously your conclusion. The conclusion has to be brief and you have to learn it by heart. It is a summary of your message. The end of your conclusion broadens your message. Leave the audience with something to think about. Make a deal or a bet with them. Give them something to go home with. The conclusion is what the audience will mostly keep in mind, so it is the most important part of your talk. You have to pay extra attention to your conclusion. Once you have written your speech, ask yourself if it needs to be illustrated. Some talks are powerful enough by themselves, but if you want to illustrate some points or need to explain complicated concepts with diagrams, you will need slides. And slides have rules. The first rule is, if anybody can understand your slides without your explanation, then you have no need to be on stage. So use a word, or a number, or a single picture without any caption. The slide does not deliver the information, you do. The second rule is, if you really need more than one word, a quote for example, try not to exceed a 140 signs message. Think of your slides as tweets. Now, here are some technical points. For your text, try to only use 2 different colors and 2 different fonts to make it easier to read. For your pictures, only use high definition pictures and beware of the copyright. If you cannot find the picture you dreamed of, think about using some icons. Now that your talk is written and your slides are beautifully crafted, you can start to repeat and memorize your talk. Memorizing your talk is necessary if you want to avoid freezing up on stage with a blank. An easy way to memorize your talk is to write it down, read it out loud, and record yourself. This way, you will be able to listen to it when you have a moment, in your car, at the gym, or in public transportation. But the best advice we can give you is pretty obvious. You have to rehearse. Rehearse over and over again until the D-Day. On stage, try to look at the audience. Keep your head up and your feet strongly anchored in the ground. Don't be afraid of silence. On the contrary, use it to highlight some important moments. Play with silences when you ask the audience to think about something, for instance. But most of all, try to have some fun and enjoy yourself.
etc. But the Facebook group will be for members. That video link will be on there. The hints that we have, the paperwork that we produce for you to practice with, to understand what we talked about, to give you reinforcement will also be in that group. So you'll be able to go there, download it. But I will only be adding people that are members. Okay? Does that make sense? Now I'm going to talk a little bit about the Toastmaster side of this club, because I'm a Toastmaster and I believe in Toastmasters 150%. Toastmasters is why I'm here today. Toastmasters is why I know some of the people in this room. And Toastmasters, for me, already comfortable on stage, polished what I do now to a point where I don't feel embarrassed getting up in front of a group and talking. Whether it be impromptu or practiced, I feel I know what I'm doing because of the 10 speeches in the Competent Communication Manual. Those 10 speeches took me to where I am today. And they take every Toastmaster to where they are today. The advanced manuals, fine-tune, but those 10 speeches are the best. Those skill sets are the best, which is why we require that any member in this club have already passed through those 10 speeches and have their competent communication certification. The second requirement we make, because this is a specialty club, and all the requirements are made by us, and we have 4 people who are basically governing this right now. The second rule is you must be a member of a home club. Now this is for 2 reasons. One of them is for the district, and one of them is for me. The district one is we don't want to steal members from other clubs and take them away into here. That's not fair. It's just not a good thing. The part that's for me, I do not want to teach you how to speak. I want to teach you how to be a stage master. I want to teach you how to take your speech to the level that you can produce a TEDx talk anywhere at any time. Because a TEDx talk is not just a TEDx talk on the red dot. It's in front of Kiwanis. It's in front of a workshop of 1,000 people. It's when you get invited to speak on a cruise ship. You need to look like you know what you're doing. Toastmasters do learn those 10 skill sets. But staging, that's another thing altogether. Things like when I'm on the red dot and I focus on a person on the stage, in the audience, I want to make sure I don't have to move over here to talk to this woman. All I need to do is make sure that my eyes make contact with her as I'm talking so that she feels I'm talking to her. There's a video camera at the back of the room at most of these TEDx events because they take these videos and they get approved by TED.com and then they're put up. So part of your eye contact is with that invisible lens at the back of the room. And you want to focus because guess what happens when an audience member who's looking at it over video sees that video? They get connected to your speech right through their computer or their television. So there are some things that we're going to relearn, some things we're going to enhance, and some things that are going to be the same. Now, the things that are going to be the same in this club is we are going to do evaluations. They're not going to be standard. They're going to be around things like the circle. Did that person get here? Did they wait till the stage was empty? Did the first part of their talk capture us? Things like that. We are going to do the DCP. And you might say, well, how are you going to do that? You asked about speech manuals. Every speech you give in this club will have to be connected to a manual somehow. So let's say, for example, you've done your CC, you've done 10 speeches, and you've got another CC in your hand, another competent communication manual in your hand. Did you know that you do not have to stick that to 5 to 7 minutes? That it can be any length as long as it's covering that skill set. So that's how we're going to do that. Secondly, if you belong to another club, you're going to be developing speeches there and filling out manuals, and you can't apply 2 of the same educationals in one club in one term. Well, if you belong to a second club, you can give one of them to this club. So that solves that. As far as the components of the club, we're going to have a timer for the red dot table topics. We're not going to time speeches, not so you can see that, because we want you used to timing yourself. That's something we're going to do. But we are going to have people that do jobs like grammarian. Because if you are the kind of person who does a lot of filler words, we want to be able to tell you that. So our grammarian and our awe counter is going to be checking in on the filler words you use and the words you don't need in this speech. Now, why is that? You only have 18 minutes. It's actually better if you do it between 12 and 18 as opposed to be 17 and 18. So we want to tell you where you can trim it. That was an unnecessary statement in this thought. That's what our grammarian's going to do for you. So yes, there will be roles. Yes, we're going to participate in the DCP. I expect this club to be distinguished every single year, if not better than distinguished. And I expect that you'll practice what you're learning here out there in the world in your other clubs, giving them the benefit of you as a speaker. So now, are there any questions that you have that I can answer for you? Yeah. It just worked out. We haven't chartered. We need 20 members to charter. Like I said, members need to belong to another club and they need to have their competent communicator. Now, I know there are people in here who have never been in Toastmasters but are interested in this. If you join a Toastmaster club, you go to toastmasters.org and type in your zip code. There are clubs all over the place in this area. I got my CC in, 11 months? It was very fast. I blew through 10 speeches in 11 months. Not much time. You are welcome to visit here while you're doing that, because I welcome extra audience for our speakers. So you're welcome to join us. Belonging to another club, you're going to learn the skills that I don't have to reteach here, but you're going to find that they're going to help you when you get here. We're going to be doing, some of the workshops will be only introductions. Let's say, for example, the very first meeting we're going to talk about what is that idea that you're going to give to the world. Because that's what we did first, and we saw the value in that. So the very first meeting will only be, we took 5 minutes apiece, 5 minutes to express that idea. And then we talked about it, and then they re-expressed it, and re-expressed it, and re-expressed it. We're going to have a session where somebody's ready to transmit an idea, gets up here and gives us their idea in 5 minutes, which gives them qualification for speech, right? Then the audience is going to go, did I get it? Was that an idea that I felt was worth sharing? Or does it need something more to punch it home? These are things that we're going to be giving feedback to so that that person can take it to the next step. What we did in the workshop is we were paired off in 2 people. Linnea was really lucky. She didn't have to pair off with somebody who didn't understand her, or she didn't understand them, more likely because of her hearing loss. I was at every workshop with her. Guess who got the biggest benefit out of that? Me. I was higher than a kite after those workshops. So I was able to not only give her feedback, but then when she practiced her speech in front of me, I can go, no, we got to move this. This is change this, move that. Let's work on that. It was great.
Not for me, but
You have to understand, I am adamant about your success up here. Not my success, your success up here. And I've seen it happen. I saw 12 people filter down to 9 who, when they got up there, I went, oh my God, who's that? Because when I saw them in the workshop, they were rough around the edges. But I saw Linnea transform. And she's been doing this 33 years. She got up on stage, did her thing, and by the time she got to the TEDx, she was a completely different speaker. Completely different speaker. And that was worth doing. So that's why I'm here, and that's why I started this club with Linnea. It's not for any other reason. I don't have to do this with my time. I'm doing this because I'm passionate about you guys learning how to produce that 2-minute video, to tell them why you want to be a speaker, and then to know so much before you get there that you're going to get all the rest of the stuff they're teaching you very easily.
Not only performance, what's actually more important is your message. And we're really going to be spending a lot of time on that.
We're going to get the whip out.
Yeah, because you can be a kick-ass great speaker, but if you don't have an idea that's unique and an idea worth sharing, you're not going to get on the TEDx stage.
Yeah.
And so we'll be doing workshops and breakouts to get that core idea and develop it.
Yeah. One of the things I read when I was going over the TED.com information about how to start a TEDx event was for the event coordinator. And it said, you are not looking at the speaker. You're looking at the idea. So when that video said, think about the idea and think about what you want to share with your audience, that's more important than anything else. You don't have to be perfect. Just have that idea down so you know what it is that's important to you, that you're passionate about, that you want to share with the entire world, not just LA or the San Fernando Valley, because TEDx events are uploaded to TED.com, and then TED.com gives permission to those being published globally, to the world. So your idea needs to be a global idea, it needs to be clear, and it really needs to be something that's worth talking about.
And it has to include a call to action as well. I want to mention at the next club meeting, we will go through a workshop we did during the 4 hours that I was in to help you identify your core idea, and it is fascinating. And then you'll get up and try to express it, yes. Or we'll tell you whether it feels cool.
Yeah, we're going to be very, very... I decided when I did this, because I'm not coming up here to speak, I decided that when I did this, I'm going to be the hard nose. I'm going to be the one that goes, no, no, that doesn't work. This works, but not this. Or this works, not that. Some of you came up here and you did some of the things that you always do. Some of you did this part just fine, but you got out here and you used your hands so much that we didn't know what part of the idea you were sharing. So you're going to have to learn not to do that, but use your hands effectively the way Linnea did if she's changing characters. Remember? Those things are really, really simple things. Watch yourself in the mirror as you're talking, because you'll find that those things will show up. You go, oh my God, yes. So when we come next March, I'm going to be sharing with you TED Talks mistakes, what not to wear, slide control, and topics not allowed, why the 18 minutes, what's a great, well-formed idea, and what will a TEDx coordinator look for? These sheets will be given to every person who shows up in March. Okay, these are very important pieces of information. They're the reason I'm here, because this is organized. This is stuff that makes my job very, very easy. Very easy. And I really do want you guys to succeed. Really, Linnea knows I'm not in this for... That is not only going to be a will be able to, we're going to have a whole slide workshop. She hates slides. Didn't use them in her talk because she hates slides. We're going to have a workshop where I'm going to teach you how to use PowerPoint. We're going to go through what it's supposed to look like up there. We're going to critique your slides, but we're going to teach you how to advance the slides yourself. Now, the TEDx that she went to, they had an option. Somebody at the back was advancing the slides for them, or they could do it themselves. But this one, we're going to be doing it ourselves because the things I've seen online, the speakers are advancing the slides. Yes, I'm adamant about ugly slides. So we're just adamant about it. Just not going to have ugly slides. We'll teach you how. There were some really kick-ass slides at the TEDx that she spoke at. And I could tell somebody coached them, and that was great. Not until after our first meeting. In our first meeting, we're going to do this. Most of the meeting will be this workshop style thing we're going to do, and talking about, it'll be more just getting to know each other, okay? Then we'll have a sign up, so people can sign up for being the Toastmaster, which is really just getting up here and opening the meeting and opening table topics and doing that. And that's going to be practice too, because let's say you want to be a speaker, but you're not ready, but you want that TEDx experience. You can volunteer to be an MC, and you can prove to them you know what you're doing. You could be a part of a TEDx event and get some experience, some inside experience, and it would be very helpful to them to know that you know what you're doing. So yeah, we'll wait on that until I know we're going to be together and have enough people and we can get started. But next March 12th is a for sure. We are going to do this workshop with the idea thing.
How long are the meetings again?
It'll be an hour and a half. Okay, 1:45 it is. That works. Thank you for coming. If you have any questions, Stagemasters TM on Facebook is the Facebook page. Post questions there. I'll answer them. I'll see them. And you can ask anything you want. Yes. What I'm going to do with the group is twofold. One, I'm going to be feeding you information. And two, I'm going to allow you to upload your speeches or your ideas. And then you can get an evaluation of them. I can give you feedback. Linnea can give you feedback. Other group members can give you feedback. This works, that doesn't. I like this. This is new. This is refreshing. This kind of stuff will help you get ready. So that's what we're going to do. Since we're meeting once a month, we need that. We need that extra time.
I endorse this for everybody. This is what the ultimate of Toastmasters experience is about. And thank you very much.
Thank you.
Here's my application.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
That's it.
Meeting's adjourned. Thank you for
you.
coming.